Greetings, everyone. Dr. Anita Stewart McCafferty here with you. I'm a faculty member with Educational Leadership at the University of Southern Maine, and it is my pleasure to walk you through Module 6 of EDU 680, Professional Learning in Schools. In this module, we're going to look at one of the through lines that comes throughout our teacher leadership program. And that through line is thinking about leading change. So for this particular module, we're going to look at school improvement efforts, reform efforts. So these efforts to bring about change, and then the connections that professional learning has to that idea of school improvement, reform, and change. Our guiding questions for Module 6 are: how can we use professional learning to help with our school improvement efforts? What role might professional learning play in helping schools lead change efforts or lead reform in order to improve learning for all students? So this idea of change is going to be really important as a teacher leader or as a school leader, that you really understand what the process looks like. And change is not fun for a lot of people, and we don't handle it necessarily well. So we're really going to make sure that we think about what it means for us to lead change and to help always be pushing towards continuous improvement in our schools. Two major objectives for this week's module are to describe how school leaders can engage others in the ongoing process of evidence-based inquiry, learning, strategic goal setting, planning, implementation, and evaluation for continuous school and classroom improvement in order to improve student learning for all. And then we'll look at being able to, secondly, design opportunities for collaborative examination of our practices, for collegial feedback and collective learning. In this week's module, some of your readings will focus around finishing up the PLC Plus book. So we've had as a common read this PLC Plus, Better Decisions and Greater Impact by Design. And you're being asked to read chapters 6 and 7. Chapter 7 is really brief and it won't take you long at all, but both of those chapters help to wrap up the fifth question. So the fifth question focus for chapter 6 is who benefited and who did not benefit. And this is really talking about from a student learning perspective. So when we examine the data and look at the outcomes from the lessons and units that we designed, who were the students that benefited from the choices that we made along the way and who didn't? And so this helps us once again to think about that issue, that through line through the PLC book of equity, and think about it through that lens. So again, the 5 questions that this book has been exploring with us is: where are we going? Where are we now? How do we move learning forward? What did we learn today? And who benefited and who did not benefit? If you are one of the students who chose to get the optional, the PLC Plus playbook, then module 20, 21, and 22 walk you through that final stages of the book, looking at that 5th question and then thinking more holistically about the notion of PLC Plus. So those 2 chapters will finish up the reading, and then in module 7, you will come back in a discussion prompt and really talk about the key takeaways and applications that you have for the second half of the book. Earlier in the course, you shared your key takeaways and insights from the first half of the book. So we'll do that in the last module as well. So a little heads up. So you'll know that you'll be creating similar prompt, a visual document of some kind, a graphic organizer or a concept map. It could be a podcast, a slideshow, a movie of some sort that gives us the key takeaways from your perspective of the second half of that book. But for this week, you will, in addition to reading the last 2 chapters from the PLC Plus book, You'll read a number of articles around school improvement, change, and reform. And I'll really have you looking at articles that focus around those ideas of school improvement and change efforts. Your assignment for this week is to really think about a school improvement plan and to compose a written paper where you address the following prompts. So I want you to identify a school improvement need, a school improvement topic or initiative that you think is needed to be addressed in your school or in your district. And then I would like you to describe how a school leader, whether that's a teacher leader, a building administrator, a department chair, instructional coach, any type of leader, might engage others in an ongoing process of evidence-based inquiry, learning, strategic goal setting, planning, implementation, and evaluation for continuous school and classroom improvement in order to improve student learning. So in other words, what process would you use to address this school improvement need, topic, or initiative that you identify? How would you engage other educators in the inquiry, learning, goal setting, planning, implementation, and evaluation of your school improvement plan? And how might you design professional learning opportunities for educators so that they can collaboratively examine their practices, give each other feedback, and/or engage in collective learning about the school improvement topic, need, or initiative that you identified? So it's really this idea of making sure that we're thinking about professional learning in terms of the role that it can play in being able to promote continuous improvement for the school, to really meet needs and goals that are that shared purpose part of schools and districts. Your discussion prompt for this week is to think about change in school improvement. So I just remind you in the discussion blurb that change is difficult for many, if not most, if not all of us. And school leaders need to be intimately aware of and understand the change process, and also be able to apply the tenets of that change process to any school improvement plan or initiative. Successful school leaders bring this understanding to the professional learning that's being offered. In fact, they may overtly provide professional learning on the change process itself, including the cognitive, emotional, and physical components of the change process. So many people, when you start to engage in change, and that's a lot of what happens when we're looking at reform efforts and continuous improvement in school improvement plans, you are looking at some dramatic change. It might be first order change, or it might be second order change. And when you start to move especially into meaningful change, kind of that second order change, then people start to have an emotional reaction to that. And sometimes people grieve. They for sure grieve what has been. They are fearful that they don't have the capacity or the knowledge to be successful as the paradigm starts to shift. So as school leaders, we want to really be paying attention to what's the professional learning that we need to make sure our adults have, all adults in our organization, in order for this initiative to be successful. So I'd like for you to talk about, based on your experiences, your readings, what would you recommend a school leader pay attention to about the process of change in order for school improvement plans or initiatives to be successful? And it would be really wonderful if you could provide a specific example or a non-example of when a school that you have been a part of or are aware of nailed awareness of the change process, or when they didn't, if you're using a non-example, when engaging the staff in school improvement plans or initiatives. So again, this is a chance for you to sort of step back a little bit, take everything that we've been reading and discussing throughout this course and throughout other courses that you've had as well, and think about, okay, how do I bring that all together? How am I bringing what I know about adult learning, what I know about professional learning, what I know about change, and how do I marry those things together in a successful way? I look forward to what you have to say on the discussion board and also with your assignments. Have a wonderful week of learning.